I'm Sandy Vaile from Fearless Prose, and I empower female fiction writers to finish contemporary novels that traditional publishers can't resist. So if you've got the opposite problem and your word count's too low, then check out my previous live session. As I mentioned in that first session, that you need to be sure what word count you're actually aiming for to start with. So you need to understand what your genre is and the average length of books in that genre. And take a look at some publishers' submission guides and stuff like that to get an idea if you're not sure or you're not reading in that genre. Although it might seem like you don't have to cut too many, even a few thousand words can kind of be painful when editing only reduces, go through the whole page and it's only reduced a few words at a time. You generally don't often find whole pages or whole chapters that you can cut out, so it's a lot more painful than that. You'll need to be ruthless about getting rid of flowery prose and especially story tangents when you've let a subplot or a minor character just run wild and written your way off into the distance with one of those little tangents. So right now, let's just dive into some really proactive measures to help you trim words. So you might be able to edit your story down by getting some feedback to see what areas are maybe boring readers or slowing the pace down. So perhaps you've got critique partners or beta readers that you can rely on for that. Or you might be overwriting, and this is something I see quite often. So in this case, you need to get really tough with your sentence and paragraph structure. It's the way that you're putting everything together. And just make sure that you're getting the maximum impact for the minimum number of words. Now, this doesn't mean that you can't have beautiful descriptions or lovely prose in your book. It's not all about just action, action, action. It's just about getting rid of all the little words that you don't really need and making sure that you're saying everything in the most succinct way. So you don't want to be repeating information. You want to be always adding to what information readers already have in a story. You don't want to be rambling on about things that aren't driving the story or developing the character. Everything in there needs to have a purpose. It's either helping or hindering that main character on their journey. And then check if you really need all of those secondary characters. So look at the role that each one of the secondary characters plays. And if they're genuinely helping or hindering the main character, that's great. Or are they kind of wandering around with their own agenda and not really involved in the main plot? Then maybe you don't need them. And something that can be really helpful is if you've got a character for one single purpose in the story, perhaps you can combine their role with another character so that you've got one person who's got multiple roles in the story. It can also help to write down the goal of your point of view characters in each chapter. So this just makes it really clear what you're trying to achieve in that chapter and what's important to the story as a whole, why that chapter is driving your main plot forwards. So this is going to highlight, first of all, if not much is happening in that chapter, they're kind of having cups of tea and a chat with a friend rather than driving the plot forwards. But it's also going to highlight if you're just ambling through the landscape without a purpose, I suppose. We can put a lot of events in our story that aren't driving the plot sometimes, and we need to just be really clear when we sit down to write or when we go back to edit what it is that chapter is trying to achieve. And that way we can cut out any meaningless scenes where they're just, like I said, having cups of tea or something. A simple but often overlooked tip is to cut out all of the redundant words in your story. So these are words that can just be cut out without actually altering the meaning of the sentence. And we use them all the time in our daily speech, which is why they go unnoticed in our story and we naturally kind of write them in there, but they don't add value to our manuscripts. So I'll give you a couple of examples. Words like up, if we stand up. If I say to you, I stand, you're going to still understand that. You don't need up. Or even, sit down. You don't need the down. If I sit, you understand what movement I'm doing and you don't need that word. So they're just lots of little sneaky words that kind of come in. And when we're editing, we need to just get rid of them all so that the words are more succinct, the sentences are more succinct, and you get that flow through your story. The easier it is for a reader to get through your story, the more engaged they can be because they're following the action rather than just getting slowed down by the prose. So I trust that you're going to be able to trim your bloated manuscript a lot more easily now. But if you need more help, you can always book a complimentary storytelling clarity session with me. They are complimentary, there's no strings attached, no hard sell. We just get to the bottom of what you're struggling with at the moment and figure out the next best steps for you and if we're a good fit to work together. And I'll put the link below.